America, we need more trains. The reality is, most of us are dependent on traveling by car every day, or if we're doing long distance trips, we're opted to taking a plane. Driving sounds good, mainly because it appears convenient. Being able to just go anywhere at any time is a nice option, but it's not always the case, right? Some of us have to travel to work, be it every day or from time to time. And let's face it, commuting by car sucks. Being stuck in traffic, not being able to do anything but focusing on the road, it becomes boring pretty quickly. Some days, traffic may be fine, but other times, it can feel like being stuck for eternity. It's very stressful when all we want to do is be home and not stuck behind a line of cars. Also, doesn't your body just feel tired and achy being stuck in the seat the whole time? And what about your foot, having to constantly change between the brake and the gas pedal? Then there are vacations. Road trips sound great, but they become bothersome, much like commuting. When most people have the same vacation time, there's always traffic. While the same stress and boredom will come to the driver like commuting, passengers may feel the same way. And for passengers, it may be uncomfortable as some of us suffer from motion sickness. When doing long distance trips, driving is one option, but flying is also on the table. After all, planes get to farther destinations much quicker. They are the optimal choice for transoceanic travel, while also used for many shorter trips in the country. But traveling by air may not necessarily be a time saver, nor is it a comfy ride. For one, we need to be at the airport roughly an hour or two before the scheduled flight. When it comes to the holidays, it's much earlier than that. Time is spent on checking in, and then going through security, and then you have to wait to get on the plane, and then you get on the plane, and then when you get to your designated airport, you gotta get off the plane, and then you gotta get your freaking luggage. And I think it goes without saying that unless you aren't flying in economy, it's not a comfortable ride. And for some of us, flying can be a scary experience. A little bit of turbulence will send us into panic. But what if I told you there was an alternative for driving and flying? That's right, let me tell you a little something called trains. But why trains? Well, simply, they are a better alternative for traveling. For one, trains offer a higher level of comfort for both commuting and long distance travel. There's plenty of legroom to go around, whichever class you're in. The seats themselves, while coming in different arrangements, will definitely be gentle on your body. Trains can also be a time saver. No need to get up earlier for work just to be stuck in traffic when the train can fly right past it altogether. And speaking of flying, why spend all that time waiting at the airport just to get on your plane when you can arrive at a station minutes before your train departs? A train can offer more than just a ride. Instead of focusing on driving on the road, we can use our time doing anything else on board. I, for one, spend time reading books or watching shows. Heck, even part of the script was done while taking a train. If there's Wi-Fi, it's most likely going to be free, so you can just browse through the internet. But there are also moments where you can just look out the window and appreciate the view. Taking a train is a game changer, and truly for the better. Not only will you get a comfy ride and save time, but you actually get your time back. To give you an example, let's look at traveling in Japan. The country is famous for many things, including the world's first high-speed train. While there are many cities in this country, let's look at traveling between Kyoto and Tokyo. If one were to drive between the two cities, it would take them about 6 hours. Meanwhile, flying will take an hour to an hour and a half, and the high-speed train, the Shinkansen, will take around 2 hours. While flying can initially seem like the fastest choice, it's not really the case. We have to take into account the time it takes to go through all the obstacles of an airport, let alone the time it takes to travel to the airport and from the designated airport to our destination. And again, you can do whatever you want on the train that you might not necessarily be able to do on a plane, be it work or for leisure. Hence, you're able to get your time back. Time from not having to spend waiting at security or in traffic or focusing on the road, and instead use that time elsewhere in your life, even on board a train. Now, some people may have doubts about bringing trains into their lives. The biggest one I would assume is, how much would this cost us? Of course, any infrastructure can vary in cost, depending on how complex and how big of a project we are talking about. In the US, rail projects tend to cost more than their roadway counterparts. It's complicated to talk about why that's the case in a video like this. If you are interested in learning about that, be sure to subscribe for a future video on the subject if it hasn't been uploaded already. That being said, just because roads cost less to build doesn't mean we get more for what we pay for. Since cars became mainstream in the early 20th century, our country has been building endless amounts of roads. Yet, despite all the money we've spent, we keep on getting traffic. So the next thought out solution was to widen the roads by adding more lanes. And while adding more lanes brings a period of better traffic, it doesn't take long for traffic to accumulate again and even get worse. Take the infamous Katy Freeway, the widest highway in America. It was widened in 2008 to have a whopping 26 lanes. Yet, despite how big it is, it still generates a lot of traffic and even has longer travel times than before the widening. We spend so much money on building new highways or expanding existing ones, yet traffic keeps getting worse. So if the solution for traffic isn't to throw away money at these projects, then maybe we should instead invest in something else. And of course, I'm talking about trains. We have gone over the benefits of traveling by train versus traveling by car and even by planes. Ultimately, while the short-term cost of a train exceeds the alternatives, it does bring better long-term benefits. I mean, even the long-term costs are less than highways. I wanted to showcase how traveling can be different by train if given the opportunity. America was once a pioneer in the railroad industry, but over time pursued other forms of transit. Meanwhile, across both of our ponds, developed countries are expanding their rail systems, reaping in the benefits of rail travel. In America, not only in the United States, but in the Western Hemisphere, we are bringing rail back in the forefront. I highly encourage anyone who hasn't ridden a train to do so, especially anyone watching who has access to a train service to give it a try. And if you want more trains in the country, definitely see if there are any projects in your area so you can help support it in any way. Check out your state's Department of Transportation's website on projects they are developing, or simply search online for rail projects in your area. It's up to us to share our support and opinions on projects to see them pull through. Next stop,